And I guess a lot of you love the spirit of Joseph Mengele out there, and you want to have a war with Russia. Russia doesn't teach their kids 2 + 2 = 5, or that Heather has 2 mommies. Russia promotes men and women getting married and having children and not reducing their population. The truth is, Russia has started to break away from the larger eugenics-based New World Order into a strongman nationalism that is brutish and ancient, but compared to the New World Order, would be preferable. That's all I'm saying. And the West started this. If you disagree with me, go ahead and call in. I think that it's a little bit of both. I think this is overall hype to get a larger escalation against the Russians, because using advisors with former Russian military that lives in Ukraine, they are beating the NATO, CIA, mercenary forces in the mainly Russian ethnic areas. So there is a major proxy war with Russia on their doorstep. We know that's going on. Did they blow up an armored column 2 weeks ago? Turned out that wasn't true. So you can't believe a word comes out of the elected president of Ukraine. Again, the first one they installed earlier this year was not elected in the NATO coup. So NATO's caused a coup trying to steal the Russian infrastructure, the Russian pipelines, the Russian bases. They're not putting up with it. And so the bankers, the John Corzine type people that make 40-to-1 bets with your private bank account money and don't get in trouble, that have gotten away with anything you can imagine, they think they can mess with Russia just like Napoleon did, just like Hitler did. And even if you like Napoleon or Hitler, did it end well for them? Can you imagine if Russia had helped overthrow the Mexican government and was now claiming part of Texas belonged to them? How would you feel about that? That's what's happening, but they prey on people's ignorance. In fact, I knew it would happen. Now I'm hearing that Assad in the news is protecting ISIS, which is Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda in Syria, Al-Qaeda in Iraq merged to form ISIS and then IS. That's on record. Doesn't matter. They're saying, oh, we might have to take out Assad too, because he won't let us come in and take out ISIS, when ISIS was armed by the very same globalists. I mean, this is so evil. I want to hear from people that have lived in Ukraine, lived in Russia, or in Russia. I want to hear from contractors, U.S. military, people that have been stationed over there. What is your view? What is your angle on this? 800-259-9231. 800-259-9231. I guess to be patriotic, I should just support 2 + 2 = 5, and I should support Obamacare, because I'm not racist, and everything is awesome. I should just support Fast and Furious. I should support Solyndra. I should support Benghazi whitewashes. I should support everything. And I should support nuclear war with the Russians. I mean, prove you're patriotic today. Join the military. Go fight the Russians. Did the Russians create a $1.5 trillion, $1.5 quadrillion global debt of fake derivatives and sign us onto it? No. Did the globalists run Enron scams and Bernie Madoff scams? No. Did the globalists in the last 5 years worldwide, except for Russia and a few other countries, they don't do it there, put satellite tracker boxes to tax and trace you by the mile in all the cars, which they're saying they want to start next year in pilot cities, San Francisco, Austin, and Minneapolis, St. Paul, and New York, all the places that are liberal and trendy, where being a schmuck is cool. They're going to start taxing us by the mile next year, the Department of Transportation has announced. And you know what? It's Putin's fault. If I fall on a banana peel, or if I'm bouldering in the Grand Canyon or bouldering in Big Bend and slip and tear my Achilles, I don't say a cuss word under my breath. I say, Vladimir Putin. If I slam my finger in the car door, I scream, Vladimir Putin. If I have a stomach ache, I scream, Vladimir Putin. And that's normal. But when something good happens, I go, Barack Obama, New World Order. Thank you. Ooh, thank you. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Toll-free number 800-259-9231. UN calls emergency meeting on Ukraine crisis. Ukraine's president says Russian troops have been brought into Ukraine, calls for NATO aid right as NATO tanks and armor show up in Ukraine. What would you do if NATO was moving troops into Ukraine and Poland right by your gas pipelines that you get all your money from? You would send in regular military. But see, that's why I'm a traitor. I should support the foreign banks that occupy my country, and they're going to sit this out in Switzerland or the Cayman Islands or wherever, starting a nuclear war. I mean, I'm just a bad person for not wanting a nuclear war. The Pentagon's been putting out lots of propaganda, I mean truth, about how we can survive a nuclear war, why it's like no big deal. Radiation's good for you. Just ask Ann Coulter. Russian and Ukrainian troops battle in the south, prompting fears that invasion has begun. This is not confirmed, but the Washington Post goes with the headline that Russian and Ukrainian troops are battling in southeast Ukraine with no evidence of it. They've put out some satellite photos. You know, I guess we got photos from the Gulf of Tonkin, too, that the Vietnamese attacked our ships. And the next time I'm going to hear, what are you for commies? Oh, yeah, I'm a big commie. That's right. No, I don't want nuclear war. I don't want to start fraudulent wars. Our global elite that just 40-something years before the Gulf of Tonkin had put Lenin, V.I. Lenin, in charge of Russia, owned and ran Ford and General Motors plants, the biggest in the world, in Russia, producing hundreds of thousands of trucks a year for the Ho Chi Minh Trail, and missile launchers and tanks and weapons and SAM missiles. U.S. and globalist-owned factories all over Russia building the whole thing from 1917 right through World War II. And then suddenly, we have a commie scare, so we have to take your rights to fight Stalin, while the factories and Arm & Hammer and Al Gore's dad, Senator Gore, sat on the board of it, shipping, and we weren't allowed to bomb the ships by the hundreds every week coming in to Hanoi Harbor. Going in there. I'm going to give you a big secret about Richard Nixon, and I should do a special report on this sometime. Because what's old is important. What's really old news and unknown, even though it's hiding in plain view, is important. Vietnam went on from 1959 until 1975. Officially 1964 to 1975. You know, our own military generals and others kept getting removed because they wanted to bomb the North. They wanted to bomb that harbor. They wanted to mine the harbor. And no one would let them do it. Because you had all this money being made from Russia and Europe and the U.S. companies sending all the armaments in to fight our troops. A perfect globalist war where you run both sides and make money and get power out of it and then destabilize the country and create a social movement you control based on socialism as the counter to war. How do you sell socialism and collectivism and political correct? You sell it against an illegal war so that it gives it the moral high ground. See, they don't want a Ron Paul who's a libertarian against war, or the John Birch Society that was against the war and got demonized in the 60s and 70s because they tried to stop it, because they had the insiders in the government that knew the truth. Oh, that's that right-wing crazy group. They're traitors that are commies. Yeah, the anti-commie group's commie because they didn't want, because they said our government's shipping all the weapons in. And then Richard Milhouse Nixon, for all his sins, he didn't get in trouble for spying on people or planning to stage a terror attack against himself to blame it on the Democrats. That's declassified. He didn't get in trouble for IRS files. He bombed the North, and he ran a bunch of different operations bombing the communists, bringing weapons in out of other countries, Cambodia. And when he sent in B-52s to bomb the North, the impeachment process began. You understand that? And as soon as our military, it took them years to figure it out, we're not allowed to take the enemy out, the war ended because the morale ended because we wouldn't keep fighting because we knew it was a fraud. That's what the Al-Qaeda war is. That's what the war on drugs is. All these are fake wars. where they bring the drugs in, they bring the Al-Qaeda in, they bring in the illegals in, they bring it all in, and then watch the big fight that starts, and then they act like their savior's trying to start it, trying to stop it, when they're only trying to start the next leg of it. So that's why Nixon was removed, because he wanted to win. And I'm not lionizing Richard Milhouse Nixon. He went over and made deals with the communist Chinese who'd been put in power in 49 by his predecessors, Harry Truman. Can you believe our government and David Rockefeller, when Mao Zedong died, I think it was in 76 or 78, we've gone to the microfilm, got shots of it, it's in my film Endgame. He praised communism and bragged about why he supported putting Mao in the first place and how communism is the way to go in America. David Rockefeller in the New York Times praising the biggest mass murderer in history and saying we need communism for a community of purpose. That's a quote. And when the John Birch Society would run around freaking out about it, or others, they would be called traitors by William F. Buckley and the CIA on record run National Review. Because how do you control opposition? You lead it. Well, I'm going to tell all the CIA people on the right something. You're going to be set up and brought down once the controlled left comes in. The globalists everywhere put the left in. They use the Hegelian dialectic of left-right, but in the final countdown, they will long knife every single libertarian or conservative traitor that opens the gates. You're going to lose everything, fools. Oh, yeah, the CIA fat cats, how they make a bunch of money working with communist Chinese generals, using Chinese as slaves to make the cheapest goods in the world to leverage the planet and take over. And now they've done it. America's betrayed. We're deindustrialized. They told the CIA people and the technocrats, oh, we'll keep the super high-tech stuff here. We'll only give the medium tech to Japan and to China and others. They've sold all of it out, folks. MIT came out last year with DARPA and said there's no way to regain the industrial base or the high-tech base. It's been lost. The U.S. is over. And they did that to make the elite that isn't traitors give up. And they're all being told, all the billionaires, everybody, you play ball with the New World Order world government that's going to be based out of Europe. You supply military troops and robots to it, and we'll let you live. You really think an elite like that's going to let you live when they'd finally drop the hammer? Ray, Gator, Hope, Blair, we're going to you. We want to hear what you think about this situation. There's been a proxy war going on in Ukraine this whole year. Is this new provocation real? Probably not. It's a bunch of hype to escalate what? What do you do with people with nukes? What do you do the Russians pour in to take control of their area the West is trying to steal? Again, they expect Russia to stand down. Russia is not going to stand down. They're just trying to win the propaganda war right now with their own lies. I want my country back. I don't want Russians running it, and I don't want George Soros, a Nazi collaborator banker, running it. All you want to call me a traitor, some of you out there, you neocons, because I'm against nuking Russia, all because you're mad that your great-granddaddy got kicked out or your grandfather got kicked out, the entire neocon movement founded by Trotskyites, kicked out by Stalin. You think you're going to reconquer Russia and the great dream of 1917? You got a bunch of Americans going over there in 1917, taking over Russia. Then the Russians kick out the Americans, send them back. They come over here, set up the neocon movement. And that's who runs this country. A bunch of communists. Ray in Poland, you're on the air. What is your breakdown on this?
I don't really know much about everything in the situation, but I completely agree with what you're saying. And the most craziest thing that I think about here, since I've been in Poland, because I was born in California and raised in Texas, is that here in Poland is just as crazy as it is there in America, because the people here have no idea what's going on. They don't even have two thoughts towards the idea of what's happening right next door in Ukraine. I was in the Ukraine, and I lived there for a couple of months, and it's like Eastern Ukraine is completely Russian, and Western Ukraine is completely, it's either Ukrainian or it's Polish. And in the western part of Ukraine, there's no sense of regulation. And you can see it because in the western part of Ukraine, it's like slums, kind of. It's not really nice. The cities are kind of broken down. Buildings are very old. But as you go back towards the eastern part of Ukraine, it's really nice. The cities are very clean, very, very hospitable, very nice there. And here in Poland, the people get the same messed up news, no truth, because they get the same thing that MSNBC.
Exactly. They get German news as well. And expanding on that, for people that understand, the political class wants to take all the people's land and infrastructure who are Russian. So for the political class in the poorer western part, they want to rob the East. That has infrastructure, everything. I mean, that's what's going on here. I mean, Russia at one time had one of their capitals in what's eastern Ukraine right now. But again, we're cursed by knowing the facts. God bless you. Appreciate the call. Let's talk to Gator in North Carolina, then Hope, Blair, and others. You lived in Ukraine. What's your breakdown on this?
Yeah, some time ago, but I was there professionally in the media business for a couple of years, lived in Kiev. We still have family there in eastern Ukraine, some of which have had to send their children away to safety in Russia, actually, to keep from being bombed. The consensus is among family and friends back there is a lot of people in the know and that have any kind of sense to them understand that this is all completely U.S. promulgated event.
Gator, you're saying you have family in eastern Ukraine. You've worked there. Recapping, you said they've had to send their children out of the country into Russia. For those that just joined us, they're announcing that Russia has attacked Ukraine and invaded. And they've been saying this over and over again. The truth is the West has overthrown Ukraine, is trying to take Russian infrastructure that's always been there, Russian ports, Russian pipelines. That is not an endorsement of everything Russia does to say it's wrong for us to start a war with them. Again, this is not Iraq that's being picked on by Wall Street. And by the way, it's Wall Street folks financing taking your guns. It's Wall Street creating the culture of the NSA. It's these foreign banks that have sold us that they're Americana, that run our country, that are trying to start an economic and physical war with Russia. I'm ranting. Gator, go ahead and make your point about the firsthand run-in with the neo-Nazis that run the Ukrainian government.
Yeah, it was while there. I mean, it was a lot of it was underground and kept underground, and obviously it's come from underground and it's running the show now. But when there, I mean, I encountered it firsthand, and having to actually intervene on the downtown street, Krishiatik in downtown Kiev in broad daylight with some guys attacking a Hasidic Jew and in just broad daylight, walking up to him randomly, starting to beat him down in the street. So I had to intervene in that situation. That's when I really came to learn, started to investigate and see how prolific the Nazi movement was there. People understand who Joe Biden's son is over there. They understand what's going on with control.
Yeah, for those that don't know, he just got control of all this Russian gas that the Ukrainian government is just saying is his now. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the Ukrainian people, a lot of them, a large portion of them, especially ones we know, understand that this whole thing is engineered by the CIA and by the United States and the Britons to try to coax Russia into a war. And that basically is the bottom line. They know they're doing it. They're using the neo-Nazis to slaughter all of the people that are not loyalist to the Nazi party and to the Nazi movement and who just want to be free and be left alone and maintain their sovereignty and their good relations with Russia. And those people have to be exterminated, kind of like all the Christians in Syria need to be exterminated.
And there's a problem because half of Ukraine or more is allied with Russia and has Russian ethnicity. This is not something that they're ever going to win. Again, what does NATO think they're going to do? Start a nuclear war with Russia?
Exactly.
I appreciate your call. God bless you. I mean, our government funded ISIS and turned them loose and is now fighting them. It's not our government. And I want to explain, the average cop, the average FBI agent, even the average person in the CIA, because I've talked to them, is completely freaked out as well. And they know the government's going for broke. The people that have hijacked our government are doing things so reckless, it's scaring everybody. Because this is how you destroy the planet. I mean, this is so reckless. And it's not a moral high ground. It's so evil. It's global domination. Messing with 170 million Russians. with high-tech weapons. It's just, it's madness. We're going to go to break and come back with Blair and come back with Hope and Darius and Kevin and others. I just want to remind folks that we'll also be covering a lot of other news. Ebola outbreak is the worst than he ever feared, says the UN. We have huge news on that front, as many as 20,000 now infected. This is a big deal. We're going to be covering that. 18 signs that Obama administration is openly hostile to the military. CDC whistleblower, I knew about this a few weeks ago, but it's breaking now, has come out and said, no, they faked all the numbers on MMR. They know vaccines are hurting people. Before I end this hour, please remember we're listener supported. You get a prisonplanet.tv membership, and 11 people can use it. And to see the nightly news and all my films and support the tip of the spear in the First Amendment, prisonplanet.tv and InfoWarsStore.com. We have all the great vitamins and minerals and the cutting-edge supplements at InfoWarsLife.com. Please support us so we can try to get the word out. From the water table to our soils to the atmosphere itself, our world is becoming more and more toxic each and every day. But it's not just the air outside that's toxic. Indoor air has been shown to have 2 to 5 times higher concentrations of pollutants than even outdoor air. And most Americans spend 90% of their time inside using toxic chemicals within their homes. There are more than 42 million smokers in the United States. Well over 1,000 types of mold and mildew linked to numerous conditions. And don't forget the fact that 6 million Americans live with pets they're allergic to as well. When I began to research these statistics, it was clear to me it was time to start cleansing my lungs in order to combat the toxic environment that we cannot escape, but that we can fight back against. Made with organic and wild cultivated herbs and manufactured in the USA, the new InfoWars Life Lung Cleanse is here in a convenient spray bottle that can be brought with you throughout any toxic environment. Now available exclusively at InfoWarsLife.com or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139.